If you're somebody who knows me, one thing you'll pick up on pretty quick is that I'm somebody who loves Jet Set Radio and other grind fiction games as they're referred to nowadays. So it was no surprise that I was absolutely stoked for the previously announced indie game Denshattack. It's like the Japanese word for train, but also tag, I get it. Seriously, this game was shaping up to be my personal Smash Brothers. On the soundtrack, we have T-Lopes, known for Sonic Mania and Penny's Big Breakaway, Richard Jacques, known for Sonic R and Jet Set Radio, Tumelo, known for Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, Soji Meguro, known for Persona and Metaphor, Takenobu Metsuyoshi, the guy who sang most of the songs in Daytona, USA, and Ryu Nagamatsu, known for fucking Splatoon! Keeping all this in mind, you have to imagine the look on my face when the publisher's Fireshine reached out to me directly, wanted to see if I could make a video on it, which of course I had a very normal reaction to. The same normal reaction I had while playing. Let's cut the formalities. This game is amazing. We're both looking at the same footage. I think we can both come to that conclusion. And judging by how I obviously want you to play it too, for most of my review, I'll only be discussing and showcasing footage of the first 4 areas of the game. I was gonna have a spoiler section at the end for even more of my thoughts, but I was actually able to just consolidate everything into the non-spoiler section. Anyway, the year is... Okay, they don't actually give us a year, but it takes place in an alternate reality Japan where the country has been ravaged by climate change. Most civilians now live inside giant domes, while some portions of the country still on the outside, operating mostly as normal. You play as main character Emmy, a ramen delivery girl introduced to the wonders of Denshattack through magazine writer Fernando. Denshattack, or as my writing software wants to keep correcting it to, Danishattack, is the art of sick-ass fucking tricks that should never be physically possible in a train. Right off the bat, it is so damn easy to feel this game's influence oozing off of it with every piece of its being. The developers said that a big part of their inspiration behind the environments in the game itself was traveling around Japan by train and taking in all the sights. Unfortunately, I'm not Japanese, so it's a little lost on me, but I am a gamer, however, and those comparisons I can nail on the head. A big part of the game is going up against rival gangs of Dench attackers until you fight their boss. That compounded with the art style and them literally just telling me in the email gives me Jet Set Radio vibes. There are several different tricks and maneuvers you can pull off in the air, similar to games like Tony Hawk, and these text boxes between you and the other characters really give me Persona energy. That one could just be wrong though. This might feel like a weird thing to say, but pretty much all of this is the most human-made feeling game I think I've ever played. It's impossible to play it and not see and feel the influence it had. Playing this, it's so hard to become not immersed in the vision they had for all of it. The hip-hop feeling samply music, the cel-shaded and gorgeous-looking visuals, the character designs and outfits for everybody. This is the most inspired video game ever made. This is going to sound corny, but it's really impossible to not feel the love and energy put into the game oozing off of it. This game really makes you feel like a train. Right, enough of this vibe-based nonsense. What's it actually play like? It's honestly really hard to describe it, but I'll do my best. You take control of the Beppu Star, Emmy's personal delivery train. She's not any ordinary delivery person though. She's got mad freaking skills of this thing. All movement going forward is mostly automated, save for the ability to brake, but the main bulk of your movement and gameplay comes from the form of switching tracks and doing tricks. You have a charge jump, a Sonic Unleashed-esque quick step allowing you to switch to nearby tracks, an air vault that can let you maneuver to farther away tracks and even rails, a rail grind with even more ways of tricking while grinding, ollieing by tilting the left stick up and down upon landing, a ground pound letting you stop all your air momentum and go soaring back down, the ability to leave the track altogether into tunnels to just do loops, and most importantly, the tricks are formed by the right stick. It's a pretty lazy comparison to see a game like this point and say Tony Hawk. Lazy doesn't mean bad. It's very easy to compare this gameplay to Tony Hawk, but I assure you, it's genuinely nothing like I've played before. Yes, the tricking system while you're in the air, I can confirm as somebody who's played 10 minutes of Tony Hawk's Underground a year ago, does feel pretty similar to that, but the franticness this game can incite is insane. The process of trying to get a good score while jumping between tracks, trying to avoid obstacles on the rails, trying not to forget you were holding the jump button for the last 30 seconds and go fucking soaring is pretty engaging. What tricks you pull off are all dictated by certain analog stick movements. For example, just inputting left gets you a kickflip. Left and then moving the analog stick down gets a 180 kick. And so on until you reach joystick inputs so unholy in their nature they are seldom seen outside of fighting games. Front cancel, heel impossible, describe me this shape. My first thought was just memorizing 1 or 2 of these and then just spamming it over and over. But fortunately there are systems that don't let you just get away with that. Using the same trick too many times within relative succession will cause it to stall in a way, getting you less and less points every time it's used. So memorization of a lot of different tricks is the most optimal way to go about things. Luckily I'm somebody who plays fighting games. Good luck everybody else! And much like Tony Hawk, using the right tricks at the right times is vital for not wiping out and losing all the points you would have gotten for that jump. It's pretty easy to just memorize all the impossibles as they're called in the Trictionary, since they yield the most points, but they also require the most joystick movements. So if you start one and are unable to finish it, you get nothing in comparison to if you had just gone for something weaker. All of the different maneuvers with rising points and amount of skill required to pull off is honestly one of the most engaging parts of the gameplay loop. I would say the most engaging, but honestly I found jumping and maneuvering through these environments to be leagues funner for me. Not to say that one of these is worse than the other, it's more of like a two cakes kind of thing. Something a lot of these high score, go for the best rank kind of games struggle to deal with are the players who don't particularly care about the ranks and only really care about going from point A to point B. And it's completely reasonable to just say games like Denshattack aren't for them. But they actually found a way to incentivize pulling off successful tricks and maneuvers that isn't just getting the best rank. If you're able to chain together a high enough combo through doing enough cool shit, you'll be able to get the Yao Euro Zudo, or simply the Rainbow Rails, because nobody says this name in game and I don't know how to say it.
I don't speak Spanish!
These are specialty tracks that only appear for those skilled enough to fuel up this rainbow meter. Doing so unlocks all sorts of different things, like shortcuts, secret paths, and are even required in some specific instances. These do a great job of not only adding an extra layer of depth, but extra incentive to do well. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, this is quite a bit to memorize here. But even up till the 7th area of the game where I'm writing this part of the script, they are still introducing more bullshit! This just feels like the type of game that never feels content with itself. Like it's always adding new stuff, and I love that. I had no expectations for how the game was going to play going in, considering how unique it is. But color me impressed with how well everything works. I will admit, it did take me a little bit to come to grips with everything, mostly because it's nothing like I've ever played, so thankfully the developers were nice enough to put a little symbol and unique sound effect for most of the actions. I have no other words, it's just fun. Probably one of the funnest high score ranking based games I've played. Now, as a game where you're pretty much only going down destined paths with very minimal free movement options, I would say it is required to have good level design, and on that front, I would say they knocked it out of the damn park. Seriously, 90% of my playthrough was spent grinning from ear to ear, experiencing the jaw-dropping levels they've created. It cannot be understated the amount of work and passion that had to go into each and every one of these levels. Because for most of these, especially if you're going for the gold ranks, which I'll get to in a bit, on average, you'll be spending about 4 minutes in each of these. And there is so much packed in these environments on top of that, it's insanely applaudable. Like, look at the size of this one. I can't even begin to fathom how long it's supposed to have taken to make and model. All for a level you're probably blazing through in about 5 minutes. The amount of effort poured into a high-speed game like this is kind of seldom seen nowadays due to the amount of effort it takes, but man do I appreciate it. But of course that's not the level design, that's just the design of the levels. You can probably guess by the overall tone of this video that my thoughts on those are. They're amazing, like, fuck, of course they are. Like, just in the first 4 islands, which by the way is like 30% of the game, there's a level where you get thrown down river rapids and have to jump between tracks flowing down a river. There's a level where you have to tread over yokai-infested waters, parkouring between shipwreck to shipwreck. There's a level where you have to break into and wreak havoc to a giant AI train-making facility. There's a level where you go through a dense jungle using halves of trees as half pipes and branches as grind rails. There's a level where you're crossing the ocean, going underwater and occasionally jumping out of it to grind off of swordfish, and at the end you control a fucking shark. Nearly every base level feels so unique and distinct from one another. And indicated by me saying base level, these aren't the only ones either. There are race levels where you go around a big track trying to beat all the other Denshattackers. There are big skate park levels where you have to rack up as many points within an allocated time frame. Boss fights, which I am nowhere near ready to talk about. And amazingly, these have the same amount of, if not even more variety to them. One of the race courses has a huge musical vibe to it, taking place at a jukebox and having you race on top of giant vinyls. One of the skate parks takes place in one of the many defunct airports in this world's version of Japan, letting you grind on airplane wings and shit. It's so cool. Absolutely some of the most creative level design I've seen from a platformer, sporting, skating, racing, quick time event game. But my favorite of all of these is the one I have yet to mention. About once per area, you'll be tasked with going around some massive city, completing certain objectives tied to the main story. Like for the first one, you need to pop a bunch of paint balloons around an old abandoned residential area, knock down 4 radio towers, and wreak havoc to the construction site. All of these can be tackled non-linearly, and I think these have got to be the best levels of the whole game. They're just so varied and creative with what objectives they throw at you. In one of them, you have to go through a kabuki theater and the train goes on stage. Another one of them, you have to do a crazy taxi and deliver a bunch of people to where they need to go. These open zone kind of levels for me kick ass, they're great. But of course, there's the previously mentioned final level type, being the bosses, and oh boy are they something. This one was already shown off pre-release, but I don't think words can describe the emotions I felt as the first boss and rival gang leader of Area 1 had a goddamn magical girl transformation and you have to fight her train Megazord. It's peak, I got nothing. At least that's for the bosses I'm talking about in this video, but rest assured, the ones going forward are even better. better. Like Mean Girl of Area 2 and 4 has this giant mole drill mech, and this fight is genuinely really good. For both of them, most of their fights comprise of dodging their attacks and hitting certain parts with correct timing, which sounds like it should be boring, but that's literally how 90% of game bosses are designed. You do better, jackass. I found these to be a pleasantly good time, even if the visuals are doing like 40% of the heavy lifting. Like this opening shot of the first boss going into one of those domed cities I mentioned previously. Deadass looks like it could have come out of a proper TV show, like on television. And then when she shoots one of her hands at you and you hop on the bastard and start chasing her down with it, like come on. I was not expecting the boss fights in a game like this to be worth anything more than just saying they're okay, but leave it to Denshattack to pleasantly surprise me once again. Unfortunately though, the boss fights do kind of lead me to one of the problems I have with the game. And by one of, I mean like literally the only one. Because Denshattack was made to appeal to specifically me, I started running through some of the earlier levels at the start of the game going for the gold ranks, of which I was successful with. Going for the top score, and I would say about 80% of the levels, is actually a really enjoyable time. It has the obvious shoot for the amount of score and time that you would expect, but it also has little challenges you need to shoot for known as dares, which is usually just whatever they cook up, and I love these for the variety they bring. It can be stuff such as honk at the right time to scare a bunch of birds, do a bunch of successful risky dodges, hitting a bunch of obstacles around the environment, doing specific tricks at certain sections, getting every collectible throughout the levels. These are a lot of fun. I enjoyed pretty much all of them. It really makes going for these ranks a lot more engaging since none of them are quite like the others. But for that 20% of the levels though, so Denshattack has a story kind of obviously, and a lot of the levels have set pieces such as cutscenes and segments where you can't interact with anything as dialogue plays. And for most of these, unless you're at the very beginning of the level or the end, there's no way to skip them. The first boss, for example, against the Magical Girl train has several unskippable cutscenes. And since one of the requirements for getting the gold ranks is not crashing once, and this is a boss battle, you're probably going to be seeing these quite a few times. It's pretty annoying, honestly. For the majority of the levels, this isn't an issue, but when it is, it really is. I can honestly see them just adding like a skip button to all the cutscenes in a patch though, or maybe adding an arcade mode that automatically skips things such as this. As it stands, however, I'll maybe wait a little bit before going for more of these. But about those collectibles I was talking about a moment ago, I should probably address what they do. Across all of the stages, there's 3 separate unique collectibles to pick up: spray cans, gears, and usually 1 film reel per stage. That film reel is used for filling out Fernando's little magazines that he publishes. These are usually cute little reads that give more detail and information about the different characters in the world, while the different gears and spray paint allow you to customize your train. The spray painting is just used for cool decals, while the gears let you unlock new ones entirely. These usually give cool little tweaks in gameplay modifiers, such as advanced tricks giving double and regular ones giving half, or ollieing counting as a trick instead of just a combo extender, but the timing becomes a lot more strict. It was honestly a lot of fun unlocking new trains, experimenting with how they change up the gameplay, decorating them with cool decals. To say it again, this game feels so discontent with staying static in literally everything it does. It's so wonderful. But to go more into detail about that story though, I love this game's world building. After the end of every chapter, you'll get these little intermission news broadcasts, which are not only really well animated, but serve to build the world more. See, it's like world building it. These little public service announcements made by the Morito Corporation in-universe are only meant to be shown inside the domes. They consist of their little mascot named Multi spreading propaganda and fake news. Morito is a corporation lying to the wider public about the real intentions of the Dench attackers, calling all of them terrorists, and are trying to replace all of them with their own AI-driven trains. I know writers that use subtext and they're all cowards! I really appreciate the game not pulling its punches with these. It made the world a lot more investing. On top of that, I found the characters very enjoyable. Emmy is like this world's Goku. She just keeps challenging people to races and battles all the time for the love of the game. I thought these 2 uncle characters looked very uncle-core. I thought Mean Girl Madoka was fun, and my favorite character, Yamagata. He's technically after the 4th area, but he's also already been shown off pre-release, He's a transmasculine character with visible top surgery scars. I don't really have anything to add to that. I just think it's cool. I think we need more transmask reps in media. Also, he's really hot, like holy shit. And to wrap up my thoughts, we of course have the music. As should be evident by the beginning of this video, my is the music good. Nay, it's amazing. Potentially one of my new favorite soundtracks in all of gaming.
They
I'm really sitting over here like Rumpelstiltskin waiting for them to drop the OST, because man, am I gonna be blasting this 24/7. I love Denshattack. The movement, tricking system, different maneuvers, the world, the music, the characters. I'm like 90% sure this game was made for specifically me and no one else. It's $20, which I'll admit for most indie games is a little unappealing looking, but I promise you the value is there. It's the most satisfied I've ever felt paying for a game I did not pay for. This is a generational kind of game right here. And now that I'm done glazing the shit out of it, I would like to do a little bit more and thank Fireshine again for giving me the opportunity to play and review the game early. Seeing how there's apparently a bunch of YouTubers who are like 1,000 times my size in this, I'm kind of starstruck that I was chosen for all people to get a review copy. Anyway, I'm done talking now, bye.